Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of The Canon, where we dive into the cinematic world of comic books and superheroes. First, I want to introduce my partner, Sal.
Alright, I'm a happy camper this week because my prayers from the last episode were answered, and I can't wait to talk about it.
Very true. And I'm your host for today, Terry. Alright, first up in the news, we have Elizabeth Banks being officially cast as the main villain, Rita Repulsa, in the new Lionsgate Power Rangers movie coming up. Sal, what are your thoughts about Banks being Rita Repulsa?
I really like the casting for Rita. I think Elizabeth Banks is a very good actor. I think she can be very menacing and a very good comedic relief as Rita. We saw her in Hunger Games as Effie. Thought she did a really good job with that. And her in makeup, in overdone makeup, like in Hunger Games, I think can relate really well to this Power Rangers movie. For those of you who might not know Rita, she is a sorcerer of some sort.
Space witch,
I
believe.
Basically a space witch, which is pretty out there. But her costume, historically, is very outspoken. So I think Elizabeth Banks in that attire can do really well. I don't know if, in terms of ethnicity, that Banks was the right choice, just because historically Rita is played by a person of color. We had Machida Soga and Carla Perez. We had them as the first Ritas, and even though it was voiced by Barbara Goodson, she was a white voice actor. The visual was always there of a colored person. So I know some people are speaking out against Banks for that. It's not her fault that they cast her. I think she's gonna be fine. But I can also see the other side of the coin where people might want an actor of different ethnicity. But either way, I think she's gonna do fine.
All right. It kind of caught me off guard a little bit. This movie hasn't had much buzz around it. It definitely was stuck in the pre-production for a while. But then we started getting the cast and there are a bunch of unknowns, so the buzz wasn't really there. And then this is the first major news. It's different, I would say. Elizabeth Banks is not probably who I would have went to as my first choice as a villain, but like you were talking about the comedic aspects, because when I think of her, I immediately think of comedy. It kind of, for me at least, says that this movie isn't going to go down that dark path that we kind of thought they were, to separate themselves from the TV show and show that it's more adult. And then of course we had the fan-made, mini movie that a lot of people thought, well, the studio is going to, bite off of that and go with a gritty tone. I think picking her as the main villain dispels that right away. Unless she's going to do something out of character, I think she might be the more comedic, villain with a little bit of a dark side. So this does tell me that that this movie is going to be more like the show.
Yeah.
Alright, so next up we have Scoot McNairy rumors for Batman vs. Superman. Ever since Scoot was confirmed to be reuniting with his Argo star, Ben Affleck, in Batman v Superman, there's been a lot of speculation on what character he is playing. According to a recent Latino Review article, we might have some more information. According to our sources, McNairy's wheelchair-bound character will be brought in to testify against Superman to the U.S. Senate, but also becomes a victim of Lex Luthor's campaign against the Man of Steel. One of Luthor's schemes in the movie involves turning McNairy's character into a human bomb of sorts, radicalizing him in an attempt to get him close to Superman and to hurt him. Sal, what do you think about those comments from the Latino Review, and do you believe them?
Well, usually the Latino Review is pretty spot on with their rumors. They're usually the first to release something that's of pretty major significance in any comic book movie. So in terms of that, I think it's pretty spot on. It seems pretty legit compared to everything else we've heard. If you look in the trailer, you see, which I don't know if it is for sure him, but we see a wheelchaired man at the monument, Superman's monument, and we also see, which is really interesting, a shot of Lois Lane and the crowd behind her, which you have to think is the protesters when Superman has his hearing, and they're in awe of something. Something happens, and they're all they duck, and they're just wide-eyed. So you'd have to think that some sort of bomb goes off, or something's happening significant at Congress. And in terms of Luthor using him as a catalyst, I think that's pretty legit plot point. I don't know how Luthor would think that a bomb would just hurt Superman. Maybe it was some sort of kryptonite bomb or something of that sort. But I think it's more of a PR kind of move on Luthor's part. Him saying that this is what Superman has caused, this radical behavior by some people, and has caused people's lives to deteriorate because of the actions he took in Man of Steel. So I think it's more of a kind of a psychological game Luthor is playing. So it's pretty interesting to see a plot point taken from that kind of point of view. So I think in terms of what the movie has to offer, it's pretty deep. So I'm pretty excited to see if this comes to fruition in the actual movie.
Yeah, Latino review, I think they have a pretty good track record. Not always the best, but I think they're pretty good, especially with superhero stuff. The way I guess I took the comments a little differently. I would have to assume they meant a human bomb in figurative terms than literal. And I guess the way I see it playing out is that it's kind of the sympathy card of, like what you said, these are the consequences of, Man of Steel. This guy's life is messed up. And I took it to mean when he said hurt Superman as in hurt him emotionally, or, to make him second guess himself. But overall, the idea of Scoop playing this sort of character, I'm fine with. I think it got a lot of backlash, it's not confirmed, but now that these details have came out, I think it's got some backlash because he has a big fan following from his other projects, and I haven't seen Argo or anything, but so I don't know much about him, but I know he has a big following, and a lot of people felt like this was a waste of a good actor, putting him in this, because when it first came out with the green socks and everything, CGI socks, a lot of people went straight to Flash, and Ezra Miller ended up being cast as Flash, so we knew it wasn't that. But then just a lot of people were throwing out all these different characters that it could be, and to hear that it's really some, regular average Joe that's kind of, in the plot but not like integral to it, I think a lot of people were disappointed by it. But it's all how they execute it. If it is a psychological game with Superman, if it is to get the public on Lex's side by saying look how horrible things he's caused, then I'll like it. I wouldn't be upset with it.
If one thing I want to add, if anything, I think this is playing more to Luthor's character and how he kind of takes this situation, and if anything, I think it's trying to build his character more so than the story itself. Just showing that he's a very conniving person who really doesn't like Superman. So if this is true, I think that'd be really good for Luthor.
In a recent interview with Superhero Hype, Paul Rudd discussed his Ant-Man role and what the character is going to be going forward. I know that when I signed up for it, that there was always the potential that they do another one or would tie in some way. But specifically, I wasn't aware, and I'm still not totally aware of how that's the case. We are doing the second one, so those meetings are starting to be scheduled and underway as far as what it's going to be. We'll start writing it soon. Sal, what do you think of Paul Rudd's comments, and what do you think about the future of Ant-Man?
Well, I don't know how we didn't already know that they're probably going to use him, at least to some capacity, in the Marvel universe, or make a new movie like they already are. We have Ant-Man and the Wasp set to get released in 2017, I believe.
Yep.
So I really think that having Ant-Man in this universe is very beneficial to them. I think it was one of the best movies Marvel has ever come out with. So in terms of his character, I'm very interested to see where that goes. I think people really related to the fact that he was a very regular person starting out before he became Ant-Man. I mean, he was a normal guy who made mistakes, went to jail. He didn't have a great relationship with his family. So him mending that and going through all those problems, I think a lot of people can relate to. So I'm really hoping they keep the normalcy of his character intact as they go forward. I hope they don't just make him another like good guy character all of a sudden. In terms of that storyline, I hope they kind of keep with it. And again, I'm really excited to see him interact with the Avengers in Civil War. We saw him a little bit in Ant-Man with Falcon, and I thought that scene was really good. Yeah. I think it was really well done. And so I'm very excited to see him kind of team up with them for the first time. So from here going forward, it can be nothing but good, I think.
Yeah, as far as the second movie coming out, I'm not too shocked about that part of the comments. Ant-Man and the Wasp was announced after the slate. It got inserted into the slate and pushed some movies back and forth. So definitely wasn't something they were planning. It was definitely waiting to see how well the movie did. Once it did as well as it did, they gave him a second one. So I'm fine with that. I think the bigger part for me is that he said that he doesn't know how it ties into the larger universe yet. And it reminded me there was also some comments by Josh Brolin earlier this week where he was talking about Thanos, and he said, I have no idea what this, the arc is for Thanos or the story. He said, I'll be meeting with them next week, and then they're going to map it all out for me. And this comment also reminds me that Marvel really plays it close to the chest. And it's kind of what Don Cheadle even said. It's Marvel doesn't tell you any, and I think it's more Disney. I wouldn't even say Marvel, because Star Wars is the exact same way. It's like where these people don't know the stories themselves. Mm-hmm. They don't even get to see the finished product before the trailer comes out or anything. Like Disney has made it their business to keep their cards very close. You see Paul Rudd doesn't even know how he ties into this. And so that was probably the more interesting part for me. But Paul Rudd is coming back to write it. So I think he was one of the writers on the first one. I thought that was one of the reasons it worked really well. So it's good that he's coming back. But it does show that Marvel has a bigger agenda where you can't just write whatever you want. It has to tie in these certain ways. So it'll be interesting to see where it goes from here.
Yeah.
Next up, we have Gwendolyn Christie confirming that she will return as Captain Phasma for episode 8. Sal, you hate this, right?
Oh, I hate it with a passion. No, very excited for this. Ever since before episode 7 came out, this was one of my most anticipated characters. So I'm really happy that Gwendolyn Christie is coming back. I think her as an actor, obviously I think the first time I saw her was Game of Thrones, but I thought she does amazing work. So just having her, just knowing that she's going to be playing a bigger part in this movie is very reassuring to me. I think her character is going to jump leaps and bounds. I think, we heard it from Kathleen Kennedy, the president of Lucasfilm, and she was saying how she's going to play a very much more important role, and she's going to be a very, very bad person, very bad villain. So I'm very excited. I kind of anticipated this from the start. If we were going to see her again, that she was going to take it up to level 10 this time. Because a lot of people, including myself, I was pretty upset that she was barely in it. And I don't know, I want to say that they had this planned out from the start, but I don't know if this was a direct reaction from the fans being upset about it. So I want to say it's not. I want to say they had it planned out the whole time.
Did you see a lot of outcry online or anything?
I mean, I did. I on Twitter or wherever it was. Nothing like I don't think it was mainstream kind of news, but I definitely saw some. So, again, I just can't. I'm just excited for her to play the role. I think she's gonna play a very integral part in the First Order in episode 8. So I think she'll be around until at least 9, definitely. So.
Well, let me bust your bubble, Sal. I'm just joking. But no, I love the news. Don't get me wrong. I love all this. I think one of my first criticisms about Force Awakens was the lack of Captain Phasma. But I have to say, for me personally, to bring her back in such a powerful role would be very weird to see after how weak she was in the first one. It's like first impression means everything, and so even if she does a lot of good things, it's just like in my mind, I'm just thinking about her getting tackled by Chewie and basically getting the not the Death Star, Star Killer base.
Yeah.
She basically got it blown up, and so it'll be weird for me, but I have faith that they'll do it in a creative way that'll be cool. I think you have to give her like a even kill role. I don't think she can come in here and just guns ablazing, destroying everything. I'm big bad Phasma, because it's like, well, you just got caught like this in the last one. So it's weird for me, but I'm definitely happy that she's coming back. And I never thought she wasn't coming back. Like, the trash compactor thing was definitely a joke. Yeah. And I don't think you kill someone on a joke. So I didn't think she was really going to die from that. And so that was, of course, a throwback to the Force Awakens, or to the New Hope. I don't even know which one is which now, but it was a throwback, and they survived, so you assume that she was going to survive. But one interesting thing is that they had the novel of the Force Awakens come out before the movie, and I heard like some people online talking about how in the novel she and Finn had a really close relationship, and that it turned out like she thought he was going to be a great trooper.
Really?
And like basically she would go to bat for him whenever he messed up. So you kind of saw that in the movie where she was like, he was in my quarters, and he was there for reconditioning, trying to stick up for him. And so I'm wondering, does that relationship come back into play where she's kind of out for revenge, so to speak, because he hurt her, or something like that? And hopefully it's not, she's just some big bad maniac killer
for no reason.
Yeah, hopefully she has an actual arc.
Well, yeah, I think in terms of Finn, we were talking about that we don't really know where any of the characters are going, but for Finn, I think that would play as a great story arc. Like you were saying, it would give him reason to kind of be there, because otherwise he ran away from the First Order, and that's kind of it. I mean, he's going to play an interesting, I think an important role in the Resistance, but having that sub-arc for his character, I think would be really cool to see.
Yeah, and Phasma just looks cool. That's the problem. That's where you messed up, Disney. You made Phasma look cool, and then you didn't show us enough of him. That's what happened.
If little boys can be princesses, why can't I be Captain Phasma? Come on.
All right. All right. Up until this point, in every X-Men movie, we've had a Wolverine appearance played by Hugh Jackman. In a recent interview with Digital Spy, producer Simon Kinberg had this to say about a possible recasting. I do think you would want to figure out how to tell more Wolverine stories. So either we would try to entice Hugh to come back, eat some more chicken, and work out for a few months, or we would have to figure out a creative way to move forward. Honestly, I can't imagine anybody else playing the part, and there's not too many characters I can say that for. Sal, what do you think about the possibility of Wolverine never being recasted?
Well, we had some news, not that new though, that Bryan Singer may leave or may take a leave of absence with X-Men, and I think if any time was right for Hugh Jackman to walk away, it would be after his single movie. He's almost 50 years old. He's in great shape. More than any 50-year-old I know.
Looks almost like me.
Yeah. So, I think again it would be a great time for him to walk away. But X-Men, they don't really have a plan after Gambit and Wolverine movies. So I think it would be a little bit disrespectful for them to ask him to stay on board without them having that plan. I mean, I feel like he wants to move on. Not that he doesn't like it, but he has, I'm sure he wants to do other creative things with his profession. So, I think I wouldn't mind if they recasted anyone or recasted Wolverine. I think he played his part well. He did. He gave the fans what they wanted for the last 15 years. So, you know, goodbye, Hugh Jackman. I mean, I love you, but I mean,
get out.
Get out. Yeah.
Yeah, for me, I struggle with the idea of him saying there's you got to find a creative way to move forward. What way short of recasting is there? Like, I'm not sure how creative you can get without bringing in another actor. Like you said, Hugh Jackman, he is Wolverine. I really, off the top of my head, can't think of any Hugh Jackman movies that I really know besides the X-Men movies. So, like, to me, he is Wolverine.
Sure.
But yes, like you said, he's a very talented person. He's has a musical background, Broadway and all that. So there's a lot of things he can do and probably wants to do. So I'm not selfish in the point where I'm like, no, you need to stay Hugh and play Wolverine. That's fine. But I'm not naive enough to say you can't recast him. And I feel like this was almost lip service from Kinberg and Singer. Both of them agreed that you can't recast it. And so I think it was just kind of what the fans wanted to hear, kind of almost a politically correct response. Like a sports analogy, when a quarterback gets hurt and the other quarterback's playing well, it's like, you know, oh yeah, we love him and no one can replace him. But we're going to replace him. So to me, it's like, I love Hugh, but of course, they're not going to go forward without Wolverine. They're going to recast it at some point. And I don't know who it's going to be. A lot of people say Tom Hardy. I don't like him particularly for that role of Tom Hardy. But yeah, he's going to be replaced. And now it's time for one of our favorite segments, the Smackdown of the Week. And for this week's Smackdown, I gotta give it to Saban and Lionsgate for their Power Rangers movie. Once the Elizabeth Banks news came out, I started looking into the Power Rangers stuff because I don't really remember any news that's came out in a while. And then I stumbled across the casting and I remembered, oh, they cast the black guy as the Blue Ranger. Now, I don't want to be offensive, but if we're going to harken back to those days of the young Power Rangers, the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers with Rita Repulsa, that's my childhood, okay? I grew up with the Power Rangers. You don't even know how hardcore I was a fan. And the black guy was the Black Ranger. That's all I'm saying. And so now he's the Blue Ranger. And I get it if, you know, it just fell that way. But it looked like a conscious effort to make sure that we change the Asian guy over to this and put the black guy over to here because we want to make this look diverse. Just make him the Black Ranger. Sal, what's your Smackdown?
Alright, well, I'm going to go a little bit off the books here with my Smackdown, who I'm throwing down to Martin Shkreli. And if you don't know who this man is, go ahead and Google him. You will find a ton of information on this guy. But Martin Shkreli, in short, was the former CEO of Turing Pharmaceuticals and had a hand in raising the prices of a drug known as Daraprim from a very cost-effective $13.50 all the way up to a laughable $750. And yeah, that's a lot. So basically what this drug does is help people with who have AIDS or who are pregnant, just to name a couple, fight off infections because their immune systems are weaker. But today, he had a Congress hearing in relations to criminal security charges that he's trying to get pinned down for. Anyways, when he met with Congress, he's laughing, he was smirking, he was doing all sorts of asshole-ish stuff, and it got on a lot of people's nerves. And just the guy that this is, Martin, your name is going to be pulled through the mud all throughout history, so I don't have to do it for anyone else. But in terms of comic books, you are the epitome of what a supervillain is. You know, you're taking lives away. You literally are. So, just one day, I wish Daredevil, Matthew Murdock, was real because he would be at your door by the end of tonight. I can see it now. You walking out of Congress, laughing with your posse, going to some social event with very rich people tonight just to celebrate your claiming of your Fifth Amendment. You go home to your penthouse way up in the sky, you look out at the street and all the lights, while in the shadows is creeping the man without fear. And he approaches you, confronts you, and gives you the judgment that you deserve. So Martin, I'm giving you an Owen Hart falling from the rafters and dying smackdown for this week.
All right, so that does it for today's episode of The Canon in Hell's Kitchen. If you like what you heard and you want more of The Canon, give us the ammo by clicking the subscribe button below. Sal, I'd like to thank you for today. Where can the people find us?
Well, thank you, Terry. They can find us on Twitter at The Canon Vlog, or on Facebook, facebook.com/The Canon.
And I'm your host for today, Terry. And remember, if you heard it here, it is Canon. I'll speak for Sal because he didn't want to say it, because yesterday was a lot more infuriated about the dark side thing. So yes, I think without a doubt it's dark side. The rumors with Doomsday were confirmed, of course.